Today I'm going to show you how to use the Clover Pom-pom Maker. This tool, it lets you make pom-poms that are dense, plush, in a variety of sizes in just a couple simple steps. This one here is the jumbo size, and it makes a 4.5-inch pom-pom, so you can tell it's a pretty good size pom-pom, and they do come in a variety of other sizes, including a small, which makes a 1 3/8 and 1 5/8 pom-pom, and then a large size, which makes a 2.5-inch and a 3 3/8 inch pom-pom. Let's take a quick look at the tool and how it works. What you're going to find, it just kind of moves around and it actually comes apart. So you'll have it in two pieces here, and they just snap back together. You can just insert that little needle into the hole, and each half here has two separate handles here. And what this does is it's going to serve as a guide for your scissors to follow as we're cutting the pom-pom. And then we're also going to use that same guide to use our spare yarn to tie the pom-pom tightly together. So each of these handles, they snap into place and they push out like this, and then they snap back in. And the same works on the opposite side here. Same thing, the handles simply snap up and then you can fold them up and down. Another thing this pom-pom maker has is it has a guide along all the sides of the handles on both sides. So it kind of spaces out each part of the handle. It gives measurements for 1/4, 1/3, and 1/2. So that way you can easily section off different parts of your handle for different colors of yarn. So you can kind of play with and experiment with adding a lot of color to your pom-pom. So let's get started on making our pom-pom. The first thing that we're going to do is keep our pom-pom maker together in one piece like this. And then I am going to snap up, doesn't matter which end, you want to snap up both parts of your handle. Now you can see because this whole part moves, they're going to kind of also independently move from each other, and you want to keep them as close together in the beginning as possible, so it's kind of like you're working with one little unit here. And then you grab your yarn that you're going to be making your pom-pom with, leave a little bit of a tail, kind of hold it down, and then you just start wrapping your pom-pom maker with the yarn. Now again, the more yarn that you wrap around it, the tighter it's going to keep both of your handles in place. So that'll just kind of work itself into place. So you want to just start wrapping all the way around. And this part here, we're going to have a couple of spaces where we have a little bit of a tail, but we'll take care of those at the very end. So again, you can make this pom-pom however thin or dense you want it to be. So you don't have to make a super dense pom-pom if you don't want to. But you definitely want to cover at least the entire plastic handle with this. So you don't want to see any of this color of the handle really showing through. So you can see here, you definitely want more than that, otherwise you're going to have a sad little pom-pom that is just going to want to fall apart. So you can see here I'm getting close to kind of covering everything up, and you just work your way around. And this doesn't have to be neat, it can be done quickly, messily, uneven. It'll all get sorted out when we actually cut the pom-pom. So I'm just going to continue working my way around the handle until I've reached the denseness that I want my pom-pom to be. So personally, I like a bit of a fuller pom-pom, a little bit denser. So I'm gonna probably fill this so it's a little bit thicker around it. The one thing you do want to make sure of is as you're filling it, you just don't want to fill it too much. You want to be able to have your handle still snap down into place here. So if you have too much yarn on there and it doesn't shut, you might want to take some off. But other than that, you can get a really decent amount of yarn for a really nice plush pom-pom. So again, I'm just going to keep working my way around the edge of my pom-pom maker handle. Alright, so I've wrapped all my yarn around my top handle of my pom-pom maker. You can see there's a nice dense layer all around my handle here. Now the one little tip that I do have for these Clover Pom-pom makers is I like to end my yarn at the snaps, at the little handles where you're going to be snapping it down into place. So instead of going all the way back to where I started from, I like to end on the opposite side that I started on. And I'll show you in just a second why. So I'm just going to snap both of the handles down, going to flip it over, unsnap these handles. And again, these are going to be kind of wanting to go in separate directions, but again, as you start wrapping it around, it's going to keep holding it in place. So this is why I like to end on the little handles that snap down, because now I can just continue moving from one side to the other. So I don't have to worry about cutting my yarn or doing anything. I can just continue from one part of the handle to the second part. There's going to be a little loop of yarn connecting the two right here. You can see right here. But again, we're going to be cutting all the way across here anyway to create the pom-pom, which includes this little yarn tail that's going from one end to the other. I'm just going to continue wrapping all the way across my pom-pom handle until I have about the same denseness and thickness as on my top layer. Alright, so I finished wrapping the second part of my pom-pom maker with all the yarn. You can tell it has a pretty even, dense layer across the whole handle. Now the one part I do want to remind everyone of is that pom-poms, they do use up a lot of yarn. Granted, this is the jumbo size, so I'm making a really fat, big pom-pom, but just plan on saving a decent chunk of yarn for your pom-poms. So now I'm just gonna snap the other half closed here, and then I'm gonna take my scissors, and you can just snip that end off. And now this is where the fun part really begins. So we have both halves wrapped up, and here I'm gonna go right where my little handles snap together. There's like a nice little spot for you to insert your scissors into, and you just start cutting across the whole pom-pom. So you can see the two halves here, they kind of go inward. It creates a really nice guide for your scissors. So again, this is that part where we cross from one half to the other. Just gonna snip that too. And the little snaps here on the little handles, they just hold everything together in place, which makes it really easy to kind of just work across your yarn and cut everything. There we go. So now we have our pom-pom cut. Now the next part is another important step before you take your pom-pom maker apart. We need a way of tying around some yarn to hold the center of our pom-pom together so all these essentially strands of yarn don't fall apart. So what you want to do, you want to cut a good chunk of yarn, maybe like a foot or so. And what you do is, again, you use that guide and it's going to go all the way through, and then just flip your little pom-pom maker over, and then I just tie a simple overhand knot here. And you want to make sure to tie this really tightly. You really want to pull on it, because the tighter it is, it's going to ensure that all these strands of yarn, they're going to be harder to pull out and get loose the tighter your little center string is. So I made an overhand knot, I pull it tight, and then I just like to flip it around and then make a knot on the other side too. And that just helps ensure that everything's going to stay nice and even, nice and tight. And then I just give it one more knot to hold everything in place. There we go. So again, you're going to have these long strands here. We're going to be trimming those anyway, along with a couple other loose strands. So now it's time to set your pom-pom free. You do that by unsnapping both of the handles on one end. Voila! Unsnapping the handles on the other side. And then what you're going to do is just pull apart the two halves of your pom-pom maker. I'm just going to set these aside. There you go. So again, we have the couple of longer strands of when we started and where we tied our knot, but you can just use your scissors to kind of trim those little guys. What I like to do too is I kind of like to fluff it around in my hand to make everything kind of puff out a little bit. And then you can see as you go around, you know, like these little ends here, like this little guy, you might want to trim that a little bit. You just don't want to go too crazy with your trimming, especially if you're making the bigger ones. It's easy to kind of, if you're a little bit obsessive, compulsive, perfectionist, it's easy to go crazy with the trimming. But then a lot of times what happens is you end up trimming so much, focusing on one spot, and then you have to trim the other half, and it just kind of is a cycle, and you end up making your big, beautiful pom-pom really small, and we don't want to do that. So you just want to trim anything that's like obviously sticking out and a little bit bigger than the rest. And there you have it. We have a collection of big, puffy, dense pom-poms. And you can use these for hats, for home decor, like little fun garlands. There's lots of uses, and personally, I can't think of anything better than a hat with a giant pom-pom on it. So there you go. That's how you use the Clover Pom-pom Maker to make pom-poms.